Welcome to Aviation for Youth, your gateway to real stories, insights, and inspiration from leaders shaping the skies in the travel world. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Aviation for Youth, the podcast where we bring you conversations with aviation and travel professionals from around the globe to inspire the next generation of industry leaders. I'm your host, Ali Bek, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by a pilot whose career is as impressive in the air as is on the ground. Our guest, Havik Grozian, has been a captain at United Airlines for nearly 6 years, flying some of the busiest and most complex routes out of Los Angeles. Before joining United, he has dedicated 2 decades to SkyWest, serving as assistant chief pilot at LAX, the airline's largest and most active base. In that role, he oversaw day-to-day operations for partner airlines including Delta, United, and American. In this episode, we'll explore his career journey, life as a captain, leadership and operations, industry evolution, and an outlook on pilot shortages, possibly. Whether you're dreaming of a career in the skies or you're curious about what happens behind the scenes in travel, I think you're going to find this conversation really, really inspiring. So let's jump right in. Welcome, Havik. It's a big honor having you here with us today.
Thank you, Alibek. Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just to set the scene, could you please walk us through your path to becoming a pilot at United Airlines? Sorry.
Well, my journey started when I was a little kid. So, I just like you and a lot of people listening to this podcast had a passion for aviation since I was very little, and it was through right after high school when I met some people who were also in aviation who kind of steered me the direction towards becoming a pilot. When I was small, I thought you had to be in the military to be a pilot. And I realized after high school that wasn't really the case. So at that point, I started taking flying lessons. I started getting my ratings at 18 years old. And then I started teaching, being a certified flight instructor. I started teaching people how to fly airplanes. And I used to fly for a gentleman who owned a computer company. I used to fly his airplane for him. And then for several years before I got hired at SkyWest Airlines, in which at that point I was the first officer flying the Embraer Brasilia EMB 120 airplane for several years, and then SkyWest started buying jets when we started transitioning from turboprop aircraft to jets. We got the CRJ 200, which then I was rated on for about 2 years, and I became a captain. After I became a captain on the CRJ 200, I became a training captain as well after 5 years after joining SkyWest Airlines. And then we started to get the different variants of the CRJ 700 and 900 as well. After flying that for about 8,000 hours in those airplanes, we started buying the EMB 175 aircraft. So I upgraded in that. I was a training captain there, and I was also selected to do the deliveries for those airplanes from Brazil, which I delivered about 10 airplanes from Brazil. Meanwhile, I was the assistant chief pilot at LAX as well, like you mentioned. Mm-hmm. So I was very busy doing training to pilots as training captain. I was training the captains as well as the first officers, delivering aircraft from Brazil, doing the test flights in Brazil for the new airplanes, and assistant chief pilot at LAX. So I had my hands full. And then in 2020, right before COVID, some may say it was not the best time for me to leave SkyWest to go to mainline United, as I was flying United Express mainly. I went to United Airlines. I was trained on the 757 and the 767. And unfortunately, COVID disrupted a lot of things. But then at that point, the 757 fleet was closed. So I had to train on the 737, which I flew for about a year. And then I was put on the 787, which I flew for another year. And then I upgraded to captain on the 757 and the 767, which I've been flying for about 2.5 years in the left seat in command of that airplane, flying all over the world for United. So it's been quite a ride, but it's been amazing. And my whole career has been very exciting, I have to say. But unfortunately, I have 4 years left before I have to retire, which I hope they increase the age, because retirement is not something I look forward to, because I love flying so much. In fact, tomorrow my friend and I are going to rent a Cessna 172, and we're going to go fly around. So I still fly small planes as well.
Nice. Nice. I saw that you spent around 2 decades at SkyWest. What kept you there for so long?
I honestly, my plan was to be at SkyWest only about 3 or 4 years and then move to United. But when I got when I was hired at United, I mean at SkyWest, I was year 2000. In 2001, we had the terrorist bombings of 9/11. So that the economy was then at that point very bad, and United Airlines was furloughing a lot of pilots at that point, and they weren't hiring for many years. And then in 2008, the economy went down again, and United furloughed pilots again. So it took almost 17 or 18 years from the time I got hired. My timing was terrible. It's just that's how it is in this business. Your listeners have to understand timing is everything in this business. It's like waves, and either you catch the top of the wave or the bottom of the wave. But eventually, you get to where you need to go. Sometimes faster than sometimes slower. But it's timing is everything. So unfortunately for me, the way the timing turned out with 9/11 and everything, I ended up being SkyWest. But it was a very good company. I was very lucky that SkyWest is a very good company, great management, and the pilots and the flight attendants, we all get along very well. So it was actually a very pleasurable place to be. Unfortunately, even though I was not a mainline United, it was a great place to work. So I was lucky in that sense. But but you know, also I was lucky. If I was had been at United, I would have been furloughed at that point without a job. So even though my timing was bad for United, it was actually good that I was at SkyWest. So things actually worked out very well. That's the reason why I was at SkyWest for so long.
Yeah. Knowing that you're like a captain at United, could you please share with us, like, you obviously said what kinds of planes you're flying, but where do you fly, and share with us what a typical day is like for you when you're in duty with United?
Okay, so right now I mainly do uh, transcontinental air flights where I do from LA to New York or Washington. I do many flights to Hawaii, which I did 3 days ago. I just came back from Hawaii. It's we do those a lot. Also, we do Atlantic flights. We do from New York. We fly to Shannon, Ireland, which I have a trip 2 weeks from now to Shannon, Ireland. We go to Rome on the 767, Paris on the 767. So we have many routes internationally in through Europe, through the East Coast, Hawaii, and what I do. In the 787, we had our routes were much more broader from LAX. We went to Sydney and Melbourne, Hong Kong, Japan, London, and Europe. But on the 757 and the 767, which I'm on now, it's mainly domestic, long haul, and European trips. My day usually consists of, if I have to go to work, I get up and I get ready to go to work. I usually get to work about 2 hours early before the flight. And if it's an international trip, I meet with the first officer. If it's a domestic, I usually don't, unless the first officer wants to meet with me. But I usually meet my crew at the airplane about an hour before. But I get to the airport about 2 hours early, so I go over my flight plan and my fuel, and I talk to the dispatcher. We coordinate our flight, how our flight's going to look like. I look at the flight plan, alternates, the weather, any pertinent information I need to know for the flight, how many passengers. I also look at the passengers list to see if there's any VIPs that I need to address while I'm on the airplane, special guests, celebrities perhaps, or people have special needs that need my attention. I look at my crew list, see where my crews are. I look at all that information, and about an hour before the flight, I go to the gate where I meet usually my crew is on the aircraft already. I check in with the gate agent. I go down to the airplane. I introduce myself to my crew. I get situated in the cockpit. I meet the first officer, and then I meet with the entire group of flight attendants, usually about 6 or 7 flight attendants. And it's my first officer. And if we have a long haul flight, I also have two first officers. One is an international relief officer. We call them the bunkie, who sits as a relief pilot if I'm sleeping or the first officer is sleeping, because we take turns on a break on a long flight. We do a crew briefing with all my crew, with the flight attendants. We talk about how long the flight's going to be, if there's any weather issues, any special passengers, all kinds of information about if there's any turbulence on the flight, when it will happen, and how I will notify them, all the normal crew briefing stuff. And then we get the plane ready, and passengers start coming and boarding. We get all our necessary clearances from air traffic control. We do our checklists, and then we go off on our trip. And during our trip, it's usually at SkyWest, we used to all stay together, but at United, we don't. The flight attendants usually stay at a separate place than we do. And if it's a domestic flight, we never have the same flight attendants. Every leg is a different flight attendant, and so we have to meet new people all the time. But we go on our trip, and then we come back home. It's it's exactly the same.
Nice, nice, interesting. And based off your experience, how does flying for a legacy career carrier like United differ from your previous experience at a regional airline?
Honestly, a lot of things are exactly the same. It's just bigger airplanes and more money. Other than that, it's generally exactly the same. Other than, like I said, the flight attendants don't stay with us. We don't. They have their own schedules, and we have our own schedules. We're completely separate. But generally, honestly, it's very similar. We have same schedules. Now, schedules are obviously different. The destinations are different, but the operation is really not too different from SkyWest. Now, SkyWest is a little bit different because SkyWest works for United as United Express carrier, so we were more constrained with our on-time departures, and we had to really give United Airlines a good service because we were working for United. But being on a legacy carrier itself, there's a lot of less pressure to get things done in a certain way. We have more freedom to take care of our passengers the way we need to. But operationally, generally, it's not too different than SkyWest. It's just bigger airplanes, more passengers, and obviously you get more money because you're flying bigger airplanes. But other than that, it's not too different.
Okay, got it. And then I saw that, and you said that at SkyWest you served as assistant chief pilot at one of the biggest hubs, right, at LAX, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, what were
Yes.
some of the key responsibilities that you handled in that role? Like, what did that encompass?
Yeah, being in a chief pilot position role is either the chief pilot or assistant chief pilot is a very unique situation because you're obviously in a management role at that point. You're in management, as they call it, and so it's a very fine line that you have to play in that role of management, of supporting management, the company executives, as well as supporting your pilots in your base. So you're always playing that fence to make sure you take care of both parties. And sometimes it becomes a little bit complicated, but and I tell people, they ask me the same question. I said, if I'm on this fence, I'm going to fall towards the pilot side. So my role really was to support the pilot group, make sure they have what they need to succeed in their job every day. If they're having trouble at home or at work, and I tried to help them any way I could. Also, my role was, I would be contacted by air traffic control at LAX about we have certain way we operate the airplanes that was conflicting with our operational needs at the airport. So we'd have to change our training, or I had to notify the pilots and to become for the operation to succeed every day. So also we had to take care of management. Management had situations we'd have on-time departure issues or special needs for our operation. So I would take care of management side, and it was kind of a liaison between management and the pilots. So I really enjoyed doing that job because it was really helping me to help the pilots succeed in their daily job, becoming pilots and do what they do, the men and women that they go to work every day. But so going to work as a pilot every day, you just go to work and you go home and you're done. Being a chief pilot position, you have to work every day at the office and make sure the operation is running smoothly and efficiently. And we have the airplanes to take care of and the pilots to take care of. So it's very much involved in operations, really.
Nice. Interesting. And one question that I ask every pilot that I interview, if that person is a pilot, what's your favorite destination and what's the most memorable flight of your career? Any flight, what would you say?
Oh my gosh, that's a very difficult question. People ask me that all the time. Mostly everywhere I go is one of my favorite destinations because, I love flying so many. I love flying to Europe. Any destination is wonderful in Europe. I enjoy going to Europe a lot. But I think one of my most memorable flights was when I flew to Hawaii for the first time. I don't know why Hawaii was this destination that's in the middle of the ocean that I've always wanted to go. So when I got the chance to go to Hawaii for the first time, I think that was one of my most memorable flights, besides flying to Australia on the long flights and everything. But for me, Hawaii was just a wonderful experience because I'd always, since I was little, I've always wanted to fly there as a captain, especially. So when I flew there, it was just like one of those special moments for me, that a full circle moment that I finally got to fly to Hawaii that I've always wanted to do. But it's wonderful. Flying in Hawaii, it's a long flight, about 5 hours. And a lot of people don't know that that the route from LA or San Francisco to Hawaii is actually the longest overwater flight in the world. Because anywhere, even if you fly to Australia, there's many places to go within that flight. There's Fiji and Tahiti and all these. There's many islands in between. There's nowhere to go in between for LA to Hawaii. It's the longest overwater in the world. So if we go halfway, 2.5 hours, or 5 hour flight, 2.5 hours, if something happens, we have to fly 2.5 hours back to LA, or continue 2.5 hours to Hawaii on one engine, or if we're on fire, God forbid, or something happens. So it's a really an interesting flight as far as that's concerned. But when you fly to Hawaii, the water changes colors. It's just a weird thing as you start approaching the islands, and you can tell something interesting is about to happen. And then, of course, the islands show up, and then there they are. You have Maui and the Big Island, and Oahu, and Molokai and Lanai, and all these little islands, and then you land, and it's a really interesting experience for me. So that was really one of my most memorable island flights that I did in my career.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. And so going into like the topic of industry evolution and maybe possibly some advice, in your perspective, how has the airline industry changed over the past like 10, 20, 30 years that you have worked in the airline industry?
Yeah, it's changed tremendously. From when I first started, of course, most regional carriers are flying turboprop aircraft, which nobody flies anymore. There was no pilot shortage then. There was one job and 100 pilots applying for that job. So it was really difficult to get a job, and you really had to be on your game. Uh, and your standards had to be really high, and the airlines could really had so many pilots to choose from. And there's been a lot of technological advancements as well. It's not just as far as pilots, but the whole evolution of the airline industry has changed as far as the airplanes and technology and automation and glass cockpit technology. And as when the 787 came, it's so much automation on that airplane. Pilots basically don't do anything. It's just very automated airplane. Even in an engine failure, is basically hands off. The airplane flies on one engine. It's very simple. So there's been a lot of technological advancements. As far as right now, as I think everyone knows, there's a big pilot shortage. It's been happening for several years now, and the anticipation that's going to continue for another 10 years or so. So anybody who wants to be a pilot now, it's a very good opportunity to get into the aviation industry as a pilot, especially. The pilot shortage, it's caused some great things and also not so great things. It's great that pilots can get hired easier, but the problem is pilots are coming in with less experience as they did before. For me to go to United Airlines, like I said at SkyWest, I had to become a first officer for 1 or 2 years, maybe upgrade to a captain within that time, and get 1,000 hours of pilot and command time in a turbine airplane, at least, usually 2 or 3,000 pilot and command time, and then I would get hired in a major air at United, probably as a first officer in a 737 for about 10 or 15 years before I could upgrade as a captain. This is a huge process because there was so many pilots. Now someone will go to SkyWest for about 6 months, and they don't even need to upgrade in many cases. As a first officer, will generally go to United Airlines within 6 months to a year of being hired at at SkyWest. As a first officer, will go to United Airlines, and within a year or two at United, maybe a year and a half, will become a command as a captain. So they haven't really had the experience of weather and maintenance issues and emergencies and all the things that you see to build your experience as we used to do before. So now pilots really have to study hard and become really good at what they do in a very short period of time that we had years to do. But now they have a very short period of time to own their skills before they become a captain, because now we have a very inexperienced person as a captain and a very inexperienced person as a first officer flying an international trip. And this is one of the biggest changes that I've seen in my career since I started 25, 26 years ago. Yeah. So that's one of the things. But yeah, pilot shortage is going to continue. It's a great time for people to get into aviation now.
Yeah, and
it's a good time.
Just a curious question: have the pilot shortages impacted you or the airline or the operations in some way, shape, or form? What would you say?
Yeah, well, it's a twofold thing. We have a shortage as well as retirements. So we have a large number of people leaving as far as retiring. Maybe you have 1,000 pilots a year, and the shortage is we can't find enough pilots to hire to cover those departures from retirement. So it's causing a lot of schedule problems. And if we can't hire enough pilots and train them fast enough, we can't expand. And so instead of doing one leg a day, which we normally do, we have to do 2 legs a day. Instead of going to LA to New York, I may have to go to LA, New York to Chicago. So that's a problem, that we can't hire people and train them fast enough. With the airplanes that we're getting in deliveries, as the airlines growing, we have retirements going out the door, and we have new hire pilots coming that we can't train fast enough. So it's a whole dynamic of 3-prong as far as the airlines growing. We're getting new airplanes every month. Two new 787s every month. We're getting 737s every month. So we have to hire instructors, which we can't find enough instructors. We barely have enough simulators to hire pilots to train them. At the same time, we're losing 1,000 pilots a year to retirements. So it's a whole turmoil of trying to have an airline, to run an airline safely, which is the most important thing. We have to do all of this in a very safe manner, so we don't have any accidents or incidents, which we have had some minor ones. Luckily, nothing serious. But that's our biggest concern, is to make sure we run a good, safe operation with the environment and the airline industry that we have today.
And now, my final question that I have for you. What advice would you give to someone who's just beginning flight training, or someone who's dreaming of sitting in the left seat one day of an airplane cockpit?
What I would say to them is, I was in their shoes, when I was starting. So it's never too late to learn how to fly. It's just take the dream and just make it happen. What I would do is write down what you want to do, whether it's the pilot, or you want to be a flight attendant, or go to management, whatever, or maintenance mechanic, or whatever you want to do. There's never a better time to get into aviation right now. It was much harder when I started. It's much easier now. When I started, internet didn't exist, because I started flying 42 years ago. So when I started, it was very difficult. The internet wasn't there. We couldn't just go online on YouTube and learn how to fly an airplane and how things work. We just didn't have any of that. We had books. We had to go to the library and book a book. So now what I would tell someone is, just start doing it. Start doing it. It's never too late. Start learning how to fly. Just take your initial flight lesson if that's what you want to do, or whatever area of aviation you want to do. Find out how to do it, and just go and just live your dream and do it. It's never too late. Just get started right away, because the faster you do it, the faster you're going to enjoy being in this amazing industry.
Yeah, I love this advice. Well, Havik, thank you so much for sharing your story and insights with us today. I really, really, really appreciate your time, and I know our listeners will walk away inspired by everything that you've shared. If you're a student or young professional interested in
Thank you.
aviation or travel, don't forget to follow Aviation for Youth. I'm Alibek, and I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, keep learning, keep dreaming, and keep reaching for the skies.